Hello and welcome back to Flabbergasted, the show where I just can't believe that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. I am your host, Rogge, and I'm joined by first-time guest Andrew.
Hello.
Andrew, the internet wants to know, Hafferty, Halfordy?
That's a really good question, and we set people up for failure. My wife's business is called The Better Half Photography, so a lot of people assume Hafferty. The L is not silent. It is Halfordy.
Halfordy.
But I will not correct people.
Okay. Yeah, it's important enough to you.
Correct.
That's kind of a roguey situation. I mean, I correct people by trying to be in and it's totally fine that you said anything because my name's Rogge, so who am I to be frustrated by it? Andrew has been officially proclaimed to be my new best friend, and he loves movies, and we found out we had that in common. So we're discussing The Shining today, if I didn't already say that.
Yeah.
What does IMDb say about The Shining, Andrew?
It is from 1980. Stanley Kubrick is director, rated R, which we can agree on. Some of the top billed actors, Jack Nicholson, of course, the classic Shelley Duvall. Their son in the movie is Danny Lloyd. And then my favorite is Scatman Crothers, who I don't believe was an actor before this movie, if I've heard correctly. He was a musician.
He kind of only has 3 faces in the movie.
Yes.
A lot of him is just driving with his normal face on when he's driving at the end. I had never seen The Shining. We've talked a little about before. Oh, what's the log line?
Yeah, the log line. Here we go. I don't know. I was also going to mention it's a psychological drama or psychological horror.
That checks out. Yeah,
definitely. A family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter, where a sinister presence influences the father into violence. At the same time, his psychic son sees horrifying forebodings from both the past and the future.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. That's a pretty straightforward one.
Yeah, not to jump too far into it, but that is, the title of the movie, The Shining, based on the novel by Stephen King.
Yeah.
If we haven't gotten to that already.
Right.
I don't think we have. There are a lot of differences from what I understand from this movie to the book, and full transparency, have not read the book.
Yeah.
Have you? You haven't either, have you?
No, I've never read any Stephen King.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've read a couple. I've read It. I've read.
Okay, spin-off podcast where we read Stephen King novels. Yeah. We record once every 2 months.
Oh, yeah. But in the movie, and again, presumably in the book, they describe The Shining as it's definitely a telepathic understanding, but also it's visions of the past and of the future. Mm-hmm. You can telepathically communicate. From what we understand of the movie, there's kind of an infinite distance.
Yeah, the distance is. I would assume that the specificity of what you can be communicating, it doesn't appear that, because the kid is Danny, right? Mm-hmm. Which is just convenient when you're this actor, it's a little kid named Danny, we're just going to call him Danny.
Well, it's Jack too, and it's Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, true, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so that sort of blurs the line between, the person and actor part of it. But it doesn't seem like he's just sort of projecting fear, terror, or something bad, more than hello, Scatman Crothers, this is what is happening, and that's his emotional state anyway, between him and Tony. There's also an aspect of The Shining that is described as being location-based, that the hotel shines in some way. It sort of gives off more of this energy that fuels the shininess.
Correct. Yep. You obviously get right from the get-go, and the movie jumps really right into it, where you've got Jack applying for this job, interviewing for this job of a caretaker, essentially, over the winter months. So that's really the premise of the movie, is that he's a caretaker. He's going to bring his family with him. And right from the get-go, you start to understand, and we're even told, there's some pretty bad history at this hotel. So we're already, beginning of the movie, you can kind of understand, this is like a haunted hotel. And
it's interesting to me that the guy describes 10 years ago, there was this specific thing and the girls and all of that. But the hotel was built 70 years ago, 60, 70 years ago.
1907.
And so I'm kind of if the hotel is itself haunted, and then later at the very end, we see the picture of Jack Nicholson being in...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, if you're listening to a podcast about it. But that takes him back to 1927 or something.
Right.
And so it's is the whole history not fraught of the hotel? It's I can't assume that this just started coming up 10 years ago,
Right.
But it's almost like there'd be an anthology, and then what about in the 40s? What happened then? Type of thing.
And we start to understand, again, not sure how deep we want to get at the beginning, but we start to understand when we're told about the history of the hotel, it was built on an Indian burial ground.
Yeah. doesn't come up in a specific way. That just sort of lends towards the shininess, right? Or did I miss something?
No, there are. I want to get into theories a little bit later.
Yeah.
After we kind of discuss more of the plot, but that is a specific main theory of the entire, haunting. The Shining is all kind of based on that premise.
So that there's some kind of metaphor in what's happening that relates to specific Native American customs or whatever. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, well, definitely. I think theories for something like this. This is our second oldest movie we've done.
What's the oldest?
Behind Fiddler.
Oh, nice.
So when you go back that far, when Andrew and I watched this together at my house because D&D was canceled that week, I kept being like, "Oh, I bet this is going to happen, isn't it?" Andrew's like, "Rogge, stop knowing things." I
was so annoyed.
But it's just like with me, or just like you wish I was less spoiled than I was.
I wish you were less spoiled. Yeah. And it was just the longing of, I really want my good friend Rogge to enjoy this movie the way that I did the first time I watched it.
Fresh.
But I was 16 when I watched it, and the internet wasn't what it is today.
Oh, yeah. And
so there weren't spoilers, and I had no idea what I was watching. And I told you right at the end, I shared with you, like, hey, I don't want to talk a lot about this before we talk about it on the podcast, but what's your initial reaction? And I longed for you to have those same crazy moments.
Yeah.
Like the typewriter scene or some of these just crazy scenes that have been spoiled for you by the internet. And
to some extent, yeah. I mean, and you were telling me about the kind of like extra special experience that you had the first time you watched it.
Yes, 100%. So when I watch this, there's so much nostalgia, which is weird to say about a horror movie, I think.
Well, people love horror movies.
I do. And I won't call myself, just to be clear, I don't think I'm a horror movie aficionado or anything. I like horror movies. I'll watch them. They're not my favorite. But this one particularly, I watched this. It was, in the fall in the Midwest in a small town. We had a friend who they had a giant barn that was used as a concert venue, actually, but they had a giant screen with a projector and we'd watch movies out there. Really nice sound system, but like kind of a crappy projector, but that kind of added to it.
Oh yeah, for something like this.
And it's just filled with all these old couches. And so we would just have late night movies at kind of midnight on a Friday night or Saturday night out in the country. So it's dead quiet out. We'd watch these pretty eerie movies. So I had to be, again, I can't tell you exactly, the date time that I watched this, but I just remember the moment of what am I watching, not understanding it, being terrified.
Yeah.
But also just, and this is something I want to talk about too, it is a stunning movie.
Oh yeah, visually
stunning, and that's Kubrick for sure. As I've watched more of his films. And I just remember after watching it, just having that confusion that I know Rogge had, just because I could see his face at the end of the movie when he verbally shouted, "That's it."
I just thought there was going to be one more scene.
Yeah.
And I'd been looking through the IMDb to try to get someone's name or to spell Scatman Crothers right. I had not been spelling it right.
Yeah.
And then I saw someone who was listed as like the policeman at what's the wife's Ginny's guarding
Wendy's.
her hospital room. And I was like, I haven't seen a hospital room yet, so I'm assuming that she makes it into town and checks into the hospital.
Yeah.
And then it just ends. And I was like, well, what the frick? Is that a deleted scene?
Which,
The Shining 2?
Well, do you know what Dr. Sleep is?
And I've never even heard of that.
So there essentially is a Shining 2.
Okay.
It is Danny as an adult. And
is it the same actor?
No. It is, why am I forgetting his name right now? We'll come back to it. But yes, there is a continuation of The Shining. Many years later, Stephen King wrote a novel many years after.
Yeah. Interesting.
And he is, from what I understand, by the way, he is a fan of Dr. Sleep, the movie that came out,
okay,
I think 2017, 2018. Not a fan of Kubrick's. Actively did not like Kubrick's
because
movie.
It was so different from the book.
It was very different from the book. There was actually a made-for-TV movie of The Shining, and Stephen King reportedly that's his favorite version of it.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Interesting.
I don't really want it to taint my view of The Shining.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
So back to my nostalgia, it's just when we were done watching it, it's a bunch of us teenagers and we just sat around and we just theorized. And it was a couple hours of us just like, okay, so what did this scene mean? And why did they do this?
Yeah.
And none of us knew who Stanley Kubrick was at, 16 years old.
I had the language to talk about like the angles of the shots and stuff like that.
Right.
I would imagine.
And there were lines in that movie that I did not understand until, I became a social studies teacher. I studied history.
Yeah.
And there weren't, when he sits down at the bar, it's like end of Act 2, maybe beginning of Act 3. And it just feels so random. And he goes, "White man's burden, white man's burden." And at that age, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
But now I watch it, I'm like, what does he mean by that?
Yeah.
And so obviously there's some, deeper meaning. But I just remember, man, vividly just being so intrigued by that movie. And all of that a little bit later in 2012, I was graduating from high school and a documentary came out and it's called Room 237, which is the quintessential room of the movie. You know, Danny, the son, is told several times.
I was expecting there would be more time spent there after the buildup. Yeah.
But it's kind of it's that foreboding room. And he's told to actively stay out of room 237.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because I believe in the novel it's room 217. And the active reason why Kubrick changed that, this is like legend, is that the hotel that they actually shot in did not have a room 217.
Why would a hotel have a 237 but not a 217?
That's what I didn't understand. And maybe I'm misremembering that, but it was something where it was just like the logistics of the hotel.
Maybe the room was like in a corner or in a way that he didn't like.
I might have that backwards. I think it was that the hotel maybe did have rooms 217 and they didn't want guests to be like afraid of room 217.
Oh.
And they didn't have a 237.
But now looking back, that would have made it the most requested room.
Right.
You know?
But the crazier part is that there are, again, further theories of why Kubrick changed it to 237.
Yeah.
And I'd love to jump into that. But so yeah, just a lot of nostalgia for this movie. A lot of after watching that documentary, and I think I told you a little bit of this, after watching the movie, it's not so much the movie that I love, that I do love the movie, spoiler alert. Mm-hmm. I do love it. It is the unknown of the movie and the context of how it was made and the conspiracy theories behind the movie that I'm just like, it's so fascinating.
It's kind of a blank slate. I mean, we're going to talk about my theories, what theories I have, much less developed and researched than, the stuff that you're able to point out, you're like, where's the cord to the TV? You're like, I've seen it a bunch of times. I've seen people who have watched it hundreds of times that are like nitpicking stuff. My thought is that that's pretty in the weeds, and like Kubrick was a detailed enough director that maybe some of those things were intentional, but I'm kind of like more of a step back, like broadly, here's what I think the movie is about or like trying to say kind of thing. And so knowing now that it's so different from the book makes me wonder how right I can possibly be.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. This was just never... my dad never gravitated towards showing us horror stuff growing up. I have kind of in my head a little bit of a bias against it just from like that's schlocky, horror, like it's just like fake blood, like whatever, like horror things aren't, that's not movie making. Movie making is your dramas and to some extent action, biopics, those kinds of things. And so it never came across my radar. It wasn't one... I feel like this is the kind of thing where in some college dorm room contexts, freshman year, you all on Halloween or something like sit down and watch The Shining. Right. And at Grace College, that just wasn't what
it was
we're doing. I watched a lot of Princess Bride at college and Remember the Titans and Lord of the Rings. And that's what we watched. Mm-hmm. And no regrets, right, about those three movies.
Great films.
But like you said, I'd been exposed. Okay, so I asked you earlier this week if you were familiar with the free to play MMO, turn-based MMO, Kingdom of Loathing, and you said that you were not. So I would almost recommend that you look it up. It's kind of it's an RPG mostly. There's multiplayer aspects, I guess. There's like you can be in a guild, but you're pretty much playing through a story. And you get to the end and you prestige and you restart it with some more abilities and stuff. But it's comedy based. So the whole thing it's just black and white, like stick figure drawings. And it gets a little bit bigger than stick figure. But when I was playing it at first in middle school, it was pretty crude stick figure stuff. Not crude like literally, but. And there's just references to everything all the time. Okay. Like you're an adventurer and you go over to the mountain area and there's classic Yeti reference jokes and stuff, but then also like puns. Like there's a whole area that's about like leet speak and like spelling things like, early 2000s internet writing and at the castle in the sky, there's a big wheel that keeps on turning and they might be giants jokes all through. So it's just like kind of the personality of the guy. And there's an entire, like the horror-y section, there's an entire section that turns out to just be The Shining from what I'm now realizing.
Okay.
And so there's you're adventuring, you're using your adventures over and over again in this one location, and you have to like have certain items to use at certain times. You have to click. It'll be, there's something about being stuck. Now I'm realizing even more of them, but there's something about like you're stuck in the pantry. It's just boxes of Oreos. Like, what do you do? Or, there's a couple hedge mazes in the game. There's twins that have something to do with bubble gum. It's like a double mint. Double is more fun. Bubble. It's like a twin thing, but like the stuff that they're saying and when to come play with you. And so I've just noticed, and there's definitely I'll work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, but I don't know what that means necessarily.
So is this like one level or one section of the game, or is this like sprinkled throughout?
This is all in a pretty like, here's a creepy house or hotel section of the game.
Okay.
That, you're on level 8, this is your quest and you have to, finish this thing, and there's like kind of 3 parts to it. And so like other parts maybe have other references, but it's a very funny game. And so, but as we're going through it, I'm just noticing more and more like some of the connections to it. And so that's the main way. I mean, I've seen the meme of like the Jack Nicholson ice face, like when he's frozen. But I didn't have a lot of other visuals that I was picturing.
Okay.
I hadn't seen, like, it's kind of surprising that there aren't memes of like the young lady to old lady, rotted body kissing stuff. Like, that's so gross.
Well, I mean, it's so graphic that would be hard to
pretty graphic,
gamify without censoring it.
But yeah, I mean, if anything, like I'm saying, I'm surprised there aren't more memes. And so that's where I think where I've been exposed to most of it, but that didn't really, and even when playing that game, I thought that some of this was references to David Lynch, because there's in that same section there's another thing that is more Twin Peaks types of stuff, and so they blurred together for me that I couldn't tell. I just assumed that this was from that, and so when I'm watching The Shining, I'm like, this is giving me Lynch vibes. I'm like, no, that's because it's giving me Shining vibes that I assumed were David Lynch vibes.
There it is. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'm curious. I heard your verbal reaction, and I did see a rating on Letterboxd, and so. But you put that. I saw you put it as a placeholder, so I'm not going to put too much into it. As far as, or you said you would come back to it.
Yeah.
What's your initial reaction?
It's obviously a masterpiece, like, of filmmaking. I mean, the score and the shots, like the way that they develop the isolation of this hotel when you're watching the helicopter with like the overhead of a car never passing any buildings until it gets to the hotel.
Those shots are beautiful.
Yeah,
and it's that weird. In my opinion, I can't get those shots out of my head because it's such this, like, if it were not for the score, that would be a gorgeous scene with like a very. This
could be setting up a rom-com easily. Yeah.
But it's just that foreboding music. And,
there's all of this dissonant violin type of stuff, and then I kept noticing these low angle shots, like where the cameras must be like almost on the floor, and you're looking up into like up Jack Nicholson's nose and seeing the ceiling, emphasizing the verticality and like the claustrophobia kind of being in this giant hotel, but isolated in such a way that makes you feel, it makes you start to go crazy. I mean, it's interesting how I've never watched a movie before that just called its own shot from the beginning, where it's like, this happened and the guy killed his family and because he went crazy with cabin fever. And he's like, well, that won't happen to me. And you're like, okay, obviously it's going to.
It's so casual. Like, oh, by the way, I should let you know this. Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the other Kubrick films that you've seen, I'm interested in the way that dialogue happens in this movie. There's almost a pause between, like, when someone talks to Jack, it's not an immediate response. And you got your Gilmore Girls that's like so rapid fire that it's not realistic, but I felt like it was even slower than realistic. And like, maybe this is just how movies were made in the 80s. I
think you could say that's pretty similar in other Kubrick films.
Okay.
I could say
it's Uncanny Valley with how realistic it is.
Yes. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Good point.
And I was noticing that from the beginning, there's something a little unsettling just about Jack Nicholson's smile and his gaze. So it makes me wonder, was he predisposed to falling into this Shining stuff?
Well, and that's what we understand we're given the backstory of him through when I first watched The Shining, and I'll say this a couple times, I did not care for Shelley Duvall. I thought, hey, her acting, not great in this movie. She doesn't fit. Like, you have tremendous scenes from Jack Nicholson. For a young child actor, you have tremendous scenes by Danny.
Yeah.
And then, so at the beginning, we get that background about potential abuse from Jack to Danny.
It sounds like just abuse. Yeah.
Yeah. Jack came home and had a few too many to drink. Danny had made a big mess on the floor, and he goes to grab his shoulder and dislocates his shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's severe. So, I mean,
yeah. As a former DCS worker, that is, that's a peds referral, and the doctor saying almost no other, indicative of abuse.
and we're told that within, I think the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
So already we don't trust him quite. There's an uneasy feeling.
They're trying to set us up with a little bit of like, this is a weird kid. Like, you can understand how a dad would get frustrated, would get fed up with him because he's doing the Tony stuff.
Yes. Which we haven't mentioned yet. Yes, Tony is his, they refer to him as his imaginary friend.
Who lives inside his mouth?
That's what Danny says.
Yeah.
Danny says he's a boy who lives inside my mouth.
And then he goes down into his stomach later, and we don't really hear from Tony much after that.
Correct. Come to find out, that is likely somehow communication, maybe from someone else who has the Shining ability. Is what we can infer.
Oh, yeah.
Is what some people have inferred of. That could just be literally someone talking to Danny.
And so he started talking to Tony before moving to Colorado.
Yes.
Right? From the Northeast.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So that indicates that the concept of Shining is not localized specifically to this hotel or this area in Colorado.
Right.
We kind of assume that's where Scatman Crothers is from, but then he goes back to like Miami.
Yeah, I don't think he's originally from the Colorado area. Okay. I think he's just a chef. We assume he's from Miami.
Yeah.
He goes there in the off season.
Certainly lives there now, yeah.
But yeah, so right away you mentioned you kind of have this creep factor of Jack Nicholson and
in the beginning, yes.
Oh yeah, and if a face can act, it is Jack Nicholson's face.
Yeah, and I think I have a note that's like, we just don't make. Part of the problem with modern Hollywood, and don't get me started on the problems with modern Hollywood, but like, he's an actor, he didn't get the job because he's like so gorgeous, and it's not like Ryan Reynolds can't act. It's like Ryan Gosling can't act. Ryan Gosling certainly can. Better example. Matt Damon, fairly conventionally attractive. Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt is like a gorgeous character actor. Like, that's who he was meant to be, right?
Yes.
But Nicholson, like, why? How is he? This is like Robert Redford like era. Like, how is he one of the guys? Like winning Best Actor and stuff. And the things that he's doing, the progression, the descent into insanity. Mm-hmm. And so I'll just kind of say that's my first theory of what this movie is about, is like, I'm going to sidestep the question and just say, like, this is a manifestation of insanity. Like, every little thing doesn't necessarily mean something, but the fact that it wants us to try to read into every little thing is sort of what it's like to be this insane, right? That it's almost like, I've certainly dealt with plenty of people who are recreational users of methamphetamine, and it's like the paranoia aspect where you do something really small and they assume that it means something deeper. So I'm seeing blood flowing down the hallway, and that's not literal because there's not that much blood coming from anyone. So it's supernatural, or it's some kind of metaphor, or it's a hallucination. And you're seeing twins, and I'm seeing a woman go from young and beautiful to like decomposing. You're seeing Jack at the bar, like you're seeing him with a ton of people in there. And I'm like, oh, this is just like, what's crazy? Losing your mind, and it's not that this thing is because of his father, and this thing is because of the traditional tropes of the things that caused you trauma. Because I was really struggling to draw through lines related to something like trauma or like calling back to previous things, because we don't know a lot about. I mean, I don't. You know more about Jack's backstory. I mean, they give a couple lines about him being an author.
He was a
teacher who wanted to start writing. They moved from New England to like Boulder, and then we're coming up here. He's a pretty blank slate. So I'm like, what am I supposed to be reading into any of this? And I think it's just like the terror of the concept of insanity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
is that the kind of thing that people theorize about?
Yeah, 100%. And again, that's why I kind of chuckled at the through line at the beginning, because at the surface, this is supposed to be a movie about a haunted hotel.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing that I took away from it.
Yeah.
The haunting, I would never really like trust that the haunting is part of it, if that makes sense.
I mean, it has to be.
There has to be some kind of like evil entity is what we can assume based on that hotel. And again, it goes back to maybe, the Indian burial ground.
I mean, it fully unlocks the door for him of the pantry. Like there is something going on.
But at the same time, going back to your insanity approach, the scenes that make me scratch my head the most are him at the bar. The two different scenes of him at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, he's a recovering alcoholic. So that's important to notice. And that's something that Shelley Duvall's character at the beginning said. That's kind of a blessing in disguise of Danny dislocating his shoulder, is that Jack hasn't had anything to drink since then.
Yeah.
So we see him struggling after a big encounter with Wendy, his wife, that he kind of falls into that trap of really wanting to drink. He goes and sits at the bartender goes and sit at the bar in the hotel. And there is, from what we can presume, like a ghost bartender.
Because we were specifically told that they have to take out all the alcohol for insurance purposes.
Correct. When he's given the tour at the beginning by his employer. So now we have this ghost bartender. So it's just him and this ghost bartender. And we're getting this weird dialogue that doesn't quite make sense at all.
It implies familiarity.
Yes. And there's and I can't remember right now off the top of my head if that line of you've always been here. I don't think that's the first time he's at the bar. I think that's the second time.
Yeah, I think so.
When he meets the previous caretaker.
Because when he gets up and he meets the previous caretaker. Yeah.
Yep.
He's British now for some reason.
Yeah. And there's that scene of you've always been here. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel like a haunting necessarily. Like, why would Jack have always been here? Is this him reliving moments? Is this gonna, I remember when I first watched it, I was like, I swear if it's one of those movies where he wakes up and he's been asleep the whole time, or he's, it felt like it was preparing for something like that.
Start doing time jumpy stuff,
right?
Where it's like a memento, like a blacking out. Like we're going to start filling in gaps in his memory.
Or even, have you seen the movie Shutter Island?
No.
Okay.
Leo?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's maybe I should stop there then. I should let you watch that movie before I make this connection. But yeah, it's
also not seen Memento.
Okay. Both great films. You should watch them. There is, again, back to that kind of unreliable narrator of, are we seeing this through Jack's perspective?
Right.
And can we trust what we're seeing?
And that gets me to my second potential theory, which is that it's about the manifestation of insanity, but like with a big influx of misogyny.
Yes.
And so like when I wouldn't have thought that until he starts doing the old ball and chain upstairs, white man's burden. And I was like, what the frick? She's the only one doing any of the work. And she's cooking. She's walking miles a day to bring you food up to this apartment, which doesn't make any sense to me. I get there being a caretaker apartment, but just put that next to the kitchen. Why would it be randomly upstairs with all the other? It doesn't make any sense. She's doing all of that. She's got like a full, at one point she has like overalls on and is the one reaching out about the phone lines being down.
Yes.
She's reading instructions on what to do with the boilers. Like she's the only one doing any of it.
She's keeping an eye on weather. She's letting people know, hey, this big storm's coming in. It seems like she's the only one who cares.
Yes. And then after that, he blows up at her like, you don't know how much pressure I'm under. I'm under contract to do this work for this company, that they expect me to be taking care of it. And you're like, okay, he's completely out of touch with the reality of what's happening, at least from our perspective.
Right.
And there's also, it just has to be said, like you said, the first time you watched it, Wendy, you were like not a fan of, or Shelley Duvall's acting, maybe.
Yeah, I thought she was terrible.
But she's so silly and so like she's not so silly. She's doing the things to take care of her son, but she's just flighty. Like, so in my class a couple weeks ago, we were doing a lesson in my preparing for college and careers class about the like gender pay gap and stuff like that. And so like gender stereotypes, if just a guy job or a girl job, why does that even mean anything? And we watched this video called Like a Girl, where it was like a Dove commercial and they were like, run like a girl. And so they were going like, and I had a kid get up and do it even before that. I was like, run like a girl. And so he runs silly and they say just run normal. And then he runs normal. And it was like Kubrick was saying, okay, but like run around like a typical damsel in distress, like run around like she was playing a caricature of a woman who's either naive or just not that bright or not that capable or whatever.
Right.
And so is that, like you said, from the unreliable narrator standpoint, is that Jack's view of her? Are we seeing when we are seeing her be like that, is that because that's how Jack's viewing her?
And I would even further, not just this issue of misogyny, but also narcissism comes in so heavily of, no, you don't understand. This is about me. This is, just the fact of, you're uprooting your family to a remote ski resort in the mountains. Well, actually, it's not a ski resort because they talk about it's not.
Yeah, it should be.
It should
He's
be.
dismissive when they ask about and your family's going to be good with this. And he's like, Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no problem.
We have to assume there was very little.
Yeah.
Hey, Wendy, what do you think?
There's no way. Yeah.
No, it was about him. He needs the space to write, and he needs to. This is his opportunity to.
And we can't speak with authority about like what were marital relationships like. Was this the norm in 1980, or maybe this is? I guess this is set in right about then.
Yes.
So maybe like that was more common, like the lack of there being a complementary, like this is a team sort of decision making process. The way it definitely is in our marriages. I mean, we certainly try to make it. I don't want to speak for you, but like, there's no way you're steamrolling Brittany on every decision.
No. And so there's also there's such a quickness with him to snap at her.
Yeah.
As seemingly man, she was just checking in on you, and she brought you breakfast in bed.
Three humans in this hotel.
11 a.m.
One of them is a child, and your wife is like, haven't seen an adult in several hours.
Yeah.
Like, how's it going, honey?
Yeah. And he'll just curse at her, and then, why are you even here?
That was when the cursing started. Yeah.
You're interrupting every time you come down here and check in on me, you distract me, and I have to be focused.
And he won't let her see what he's writing.
Yes.
He crumples it up. He pulls out of her hand. Like, he rips it up. He doesn't let her see it.
Little side note. I mentioned this while we were watching it, but I don't know if you saw. Did you notice the color of the typewriter change?
I mentioned, I didn't. I wasn't noticing it. I mean, I'm looking into Jack Nicholson's eyes with his furrowed brow, and I know enough. This is my first Kubrick film, I think, but I still know enough to know the term the Kubrick stare, where he does like the head lowering, like smile, but like boring into your eyes thing, and it's like, man. I have a note that's like, I thought that knowing about that ahead of time would make me a little bit immune to being like, oh, this guy's creepy. But like, no, it just works. There is something fundamental about the heavy brow that Jack Nicholson has and the way he stares under it. And the same with Vincent D'Onofrio.
So unsettling.
Yes. But the sweater he's wearing the first time he does it, the blue like cable knit sweater when he's looking out the window. Come on.
It's a look.
It's a pretty sick sweater.
And I told you, I've seen a lot of people dress as Shelley Duvall's character as well for Halloween. Like, it's pretty iconic. And that's one of my notes that I want at the beginning that I skipped past, but it was like the setting of this movie is so 80s. And it is so I mentioned a couple times while we were watching the film, I'm like, dude, Danny's outfits are just fire.
Yeah.
His Apollo 11 sweater, which is also part of another theory of the movie. Haven't got to that part yet. His little kid sweaters from early 80s are like, man, those are so cool.
And that kind of style has almost come back ironically. Like it's a hipster, like wearing, that you see similar things pop up with like what Dustin wears in Stranger Things. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's very 80s.
Right. And so, there's like this narcissism that I have to be, transparent and maybe get a little too deep on this podcast that I see a little bit of myself in of when I get so wrapped up into a personal project, like sometimes Brittany is kind of like the Shelley Duvall to me of like, she just wants to check in and see I'm okay. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like I need focus and I need, and it's just like, and I saw a little bit of myself in that, like not to this extent.
Right.
But as part of me of,
you do it, your girls age wise, it kind of lines up.
There it is. So back like to the Shelley Duvall thing, and I don't mean this, and I'm not trying to sound derogatory, but like her character is so simple.
Yes.
She's very one-dimensional.
Yes.
She is very...
I am mom. I am taking care of this kid. I'm reacting straightforwardly to what is in front of me.
And she's...
in a way that doesn't imply a lot of depth behind her eyes. Like she's trying to be a blank slate back there.
Yes. And it was hard not to... And you laughed and I laughed like near the end of the film where she's being chased.
With a knife. And
she's so pathetic.
She's flailing her arms in the air. And I said like, this movie isn't about... Jack chasing her, it's about her versus doors because she's so bad at all the doors.
Yeah, it's like it's not that hard. Just pull the latch.
And the window, like you're not fitting through the window. You bust out the window.
She just kept trying to watch through the window.
Yeah,
but that's like your classic horror movie trope at that point of you're kind of yelling at the screen like, "What are you doing? Just open the door."
Yeah.
So a little bit of background information that you learn about the documentary and you learn in the deeper scenes. Shelley Duvall could not stand Stanley Kubrick during the filming of this.
Okay.
And specifically, Kubrick, and I would not condone this, and, this is kind of the question of some people call Kubrick a genius, and so was this part of the method?
Yeah.
Was just outright horrible to Shelley Duvall.
Yeah.
Treated her terribly on purpose.
Trying to put her in a mental state of the belittled wife.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Which would not fly today.
Right.
In, late 70s, 1980, maybe that, not saying that's right.
Right.
But he would do that on purpose to get her to that state was kind of the assumption. I don't think he ever came out and said that.
Trying to like break her. Yeah.
Yeah. Which again, not okay. But it did present what we see. It presents a kind of a broken, simple,
watery eyes, like sort of always on the verge of tears.
Yep. The other thing that he would do, and this might kind of help you understand some of these scenes, is he was notorious for taking way too many takes. So, for example, the Scatman Crothers scene where he's laying in bed in his Miami house.
That's a nothing acting-wise. It's not that much.
That reportedly, they took that well over 60 times.
Wow.
And it got to the point where Scatman, not a trained actor, not used to this environment, would cry. And it was like, man, you gotta let me stop. We can't keep doing this. And Kubrick would make him. The one scene in particular, when the probably the most infamous scene, where Jack's character is breaking into the bathroom with the axe. Yeah. They filmed that so many takes over 3 days. Just that action scene of him breaking into that door. And so Kubrick would also allow a lot of improv. He trusted Jack Nicholson a lot.
Yeah, sure.
He did not trust Shelley Duvall, which you can see, but he trusted Jack Nicholson a lot. And so that's where we get the famous, like, here's Johnny line. Yeah,
I knew that was improv. I'd read a little bit of a blurb about him purposely improving.
And so he was known to do that in films, from what I understand, but he would do so many takes. And you can even see some of the, like, was it Stanley Kubrick's daughter, I want to say, actually filmed a behind the scenes. There are behind the scenes clips, which are, I think, more rare for a production in the late 70s.
Yeah, now it's like there's someone filming the camera guy all the time, right? In case of whatever. Yeah.
And I've seen little clips of these behind the scenes, and you'll see Jack Nicholson very much getting into character for those scenes, and the crew has to kind of like, he's swinging around an axe, and the crew has to like kind of back up and pretty skeptical of what's about to happen. Yeah. So Kubrick was trying to foster that environment for the realism. Yeah, and that leads towards this back and forth of pretty terrifying. Of Jack has completely lost it near the, by act 3. And Shelley Duvall's terrified, and she's so one-dimensional, and she's just so, there's so much depth and questioning behind Jack's actions, and you kind of just you compare it to her, and she's like, oh, it's just simple wife, scared, and wants to survive.
The fact that, when he falls down the stairs, and she doesn't tie him up or anything, she drags him somewhere and like locks him in. It's something, but she can't bring herself to take more action than that. And this is filmed, correct me if I'm wrong, on location in a hotel?
Yes, I'm not in Colorado, I believe. I want to say it's like Oregon. I could fact check that real quick.
You said Montana the other day too, like for some of the
I know some of the aerial shots were Montana. I believe where this was shot was like a hotel in Oregon.
I've always heard it connected to the Stanley in Estes Park, Colorado, up the mountains near Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yes, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park. I'm going to Google this.
Where listeners, my family, my mom, dad, and brother lived in Estes Park for a couple of years there, working at the YMCA of the Rockies, and also Starbucks, and also Rocky Mountain Connection, I think was the sporting goods store.
The exterior shots were filmed at the Timberline Lodge in Oregon.
Okay. The exterior shots but when we're in the hotel.
Yes. Interior shots were a mixture of, some of it was shot in England or some custom sound stages. And then the hotel itself was the, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, sorry, Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite National Park.
Okay. But it's in a hotel.
Yes.
So I think there's an aspect, I'm not an actor or anything, but I have to imagine from Shelley Duvall's perspective, when I'm on a soundstage, I'm a woman in a room, and like crazier things have happened than Jack Nicholson has actually lost it, and he has an axe. Yeah. Hopefully he's just a method actor, but like there's a little bit of sincere tension and fear there.
Yeah,
you have to imagine,
especially when put yourself in her shoes for a second. You already are not getting along with this director. This director has
berating
belittled
you. It's bringing down your self-image.
Yeah, it's got to be super uncomfortable and unnerving.
Yeah, and you're like, you've got this little kid that you're ostensibly and maybe literally trying to protect from some of the emotional baggage. Mm-hmm. I would be interested to read. I'm sure there's a million people trying to interview all grown up Danny now. In his
which he did this, and I think one other acting position, and he's. He came back for another something related to The Shining, if I remember. I forget what it was.
He killed it.
Oh yeah,
and I'll be one of the first to be like, that little kid, didn't quite have it in a movie or whatever, but not the case here. He really carried some of that Tony the Red Rum stuff.
Mm-hmm. I came home and I had forgotten if Brittany had watched this. I don't think I've watched it with Brittany, my wife, and I had asked her, she knew we were watching it together. And I said, by the way, have you ever seen The Shining? I don't think we've ever talked about it. And she immediately just puts her finger up. She goes, oh yeah, Rad Rom. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you've seen it. Which some people make fun of that today. But again, a kid actor having that personality separation of playing another character like that. Oh my gosh. Again, terrifying.
Yeah. At that age, being able to explain, okay, you're an actor and you're acting, you're pretending the scene, you're pretending to be someone else. And this is how that other person's feeling, and him like getting into that, like his face changes.
Right. Going back, cause I want to make sure I mention this back to my comment earlier about this is a stunning movie.
Yes.
And maybe I'll just ask you, what was your favorite scene?
I was trying to write down just a minute before we started recording because I realized I hadn't gone back and filled it in. Because I did a thing, as I semi-often do when I watch these movies, where I just kind of watch the first chunk of it and then start taking notes, just let myself settle into it. I wrote down maybe when it's not a scene, it's like an act. It's just the descent. When you realize that he's fully lost it, which is...
It's the staircase scene?
Probably the staircase scene, right? Probably the staircase scene. And so... then I'm like, okay, I think my favorite scene is actually the like last 10 minutes leading up to this. Like the in between the like chrysalis stage of he's there. He already yelled at her about coming to check on him once. Mm-hmm. And he has the weird conversation with Danny when he comes up to get his fire truck. And he's just the creepy bathrobe dad about it. Like, I would never hurt you type of thing. And like he has a smile on, but like it's not reaching his eyes type of thing. So I think it's that. It's when Jack Nicholson is playing the guy who's descending into the madness. Because, I mean, the end of it is like he's committing to it, the physicality he's committed to, like he's bought in and all that. It gets a little campier, not in like an awful way. Like they're just going for like, and now he's chasing him through a hedge maze, and that's what's happening. So I think acting wise, it's the 10 minutes leading up to when you really realize that he's losing it, and just all of those scenes of him, winging a tennis ball at the wall for some reason. Yeah. I'm like, that's got to leave a mark. They can't just be zero, consequences for whipping a tennis ball around like a fancy hotel.
I don't think I'd ever thought that much about that until you made a couple comments about him. Like, why? That's so aggressive. Like he's throwing that so hard.
Yeah, he's clearly not settling in the way he claimed he was going to. And then so from that kind of all the way to like the first bar scene where you're like, I know there's no one in there, and he's snapped. Like it's snapped off. Because from that point on, you're dealing with, okay, now Shelley Duvall is the protagonist. That's who I'm rooting for, to get out and like for good things to happen. And he's the bad guy. He's going to be the agent of evil.
Yes.
So I like the squishy part. I'm still trying to figure it out, and like what's happening. Is everyone going to go crazy? Is just he going to go crazy? Is the kid going to save the day? What's kind of going to happen?
My favorite scene by far, and I think it's a lot of people's, is the staircase scene.
Yeah.
When he is fully snapped.
Yeah.
Coming after his wife, and he's
not full. He's still sort of justifying like some of his verbiage, but he's holding a baseball bat.
But the line itself that gets me every time.
Baseball bat. Yeah.
Yeah, she's holding the baseball bat, and they're just slowly ascending up the stairs. Which again, reportedly, they filmed this, so they took so many takes of this, an uncomfortable amount. He's coming up the stairs, and I'm not going to hurt you.
Yeah,
I'm just going to bash your effing head in.
Yeah,
I'm like, and he says it again, and I'm like, what? Listen to yourself, dude.
Yeah,
like you're nuts.
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of the first third of when she gets into the room and he's in the room.
Yeah,
and something's off, but. Yeah, it's a different level of, once he said that's a different level of full psychotic break.
So that's plot-wise, story-wise, that's my favorite scene.
Yeah.
But going back to my comment on the stunning movie, this is filmmaker-wise, not that I'm a filmmaker, but I love videography and I love camera work. This was one of the first movies, to my understanding, that used the Steadicam.
Yeah.
And it was the inventor of the Steadicam that helped with cinematography on this movie. And so literally... the scenes that are my favorite visually are Danny on the big wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only visually, audibly, there's something so satisfying.
The
rug to the hardwood, to the rug, to the hardwood. And it's just so visually appealing.
It successfully transports you to when you're a kid riding on those kinds of 100%. Bikes. Yeah.
You are on that big wheel.
Yeah.
I'm a 31-year-old and I'm on that big wheel hauling butt through a hotel, a Venga hotel, which is kind of like a kid's dream.
Yes.
I mean, again, if you were to change the score of this movie for the first, I think, 30 minutes,
it can become Home Alone.
Minus the line about, oh yeah, former caretaker killed his wife and kids.
Yeah.
Minus that, like, it's very lighthearted. I mean, it's kind of like a kid's dream. Like, I could go stay in a hotel for several months. But man, those shots of him, which again, the first sequence of it is not necessarily creepy. It's foreboding. It's big, giant, empty hotel, which even some of the shots, not even on the Steadicam, but even the shots of like Jack at his desk, Kubrick does this thing where it's those big open areas behind you, which is just unsettling. Who
loves, why? That's one of the first thing that tips you off, because you're like, that's not where you're setting up to write. There's no chance. You at maybe like a cozy desk right in front of a window overlooking the hedge maze, maybe. Right, you got to be looking outside at the I mean, you're in one of the more gorgeous places in the world, right? You set yourself out there, but with all that open space behind you, no one just loves to sit in a situation like that.
Nope. And so just those unsettling shots. And the
colors in this movie,
the bathroom after the bathroom,
both bathrooms,
yes,
the men's bathroom at the ballroom and the like avocado green of room 237.
Yes. The pattern on the carpet,
mm-hmm.
And the rugs, which is again part of some people's theories of what this movie actually means. But yeah, and Kubrick's known for visually stunning work.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that I told you, man, that's probably what caught my eye back when I was 16 years old, of just this movie looked different, of what was going out in, the late 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
This movie at that time, nearly 30 years old at that time, and still looked amazing. It still looks amazing.
So the thing about being shot on film versus the digital, there's just an ineffable quality that it sounds so snobby to be like, well, if you can see one battle after another in VistaVision, and there's like 3 theaters that show it in film like that in the country, and maybe it's 3 in the world or something. There's like a New York and LA and a London.
Right.
And, but yeah, it makes me want to live in one of those cities where I can go see old rep screenings of these classic films the way they were meant to be shown, because you lose something.
Mm-hmm.
You lose a warmth.
Yes. Even watching it, nothing against your setup at your house, but even watching it on a smaller screen, like that, this is a movie. Kubrick movies are meant to be on the big screen.
Yeah.
Are meant to be viewed in that fashion.
I got the new projector in, so the next thing we see will be, it was on sale. There was one that was $25 off or whatever.
So excited. Maybe I'll introduce you to another Kubrick movie that we can watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can imagine 2001 has to be the biggest screen you can get.
Yeah.
Well, how do we get into a barn with a bunch of couches in it?
I know. I need to reconnect with my friend Claire and see if that's still a viable option. Because,
dude,
I know her dad still owns that property.
There's a whole conversation to be had about my willingness to purchase a barn with some of my friends, because that has been explicitly stated to some people. Like, that is on the table.
Yeah. And again, I think probably a close runner-up to my favorite scene, and I know, and it's a very well-known scene because of the internet, but, all work and no play makes Jack a very dull boy. And you even made the comment, why are there so many pages? Why does she keep turning the pages?
Yeah, after the first 50 pages, you see all say the same thing with typos in it.
Yeah.
The typos are good. I don't know. Part of my OCD wanted her to just flip through and they're all the exact same.
Yeah.
But the typos make it feel more lived in and real.
Well, it makes it feel like
on a typewriter.
Well, the amount of effort that each page is formatted differently. And again, if the words were replaced with real words, would look like a novel.
Yeah.
And I think taken away from that scene, I think why do we have to film so many pages? It's her denial. It is, this can't be it. Like, she just keeps flipping and flipping and flipping. Like you said, the camera angle on this one is like pointed up at her from the, like, kind of the page perspective,
preventing us from seeing well behind her. So that is a tense moment where you're like, I know there's no way he's more than 40 feet away. Like, he's coming up behind her, probably with an axe. I mean, like, I know enough to think that he might have an axe at this point already.
Yep. And at that point, I think if I remember timeline correctly, we're more than a month in. We're not quite 2 months in that they've been there.
I mean, this is just the last day. I mean, right? It's only been a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah. And they haven't even, I don't even think they've hit the holidays, so I don't think they've hit Christmas.
Yeah, there's no reference to any of that.
But you're like, man, this has been a while, and this is what it's that shocking moment of this is what he's been working on the whole time. Obviously, insanity.
Yeah. And so, that was one of the first things that I was like, how can I connect the words red rum to all we're going to play make Jack a dull boy to the twins to come play with us? And there doesn't, either I'm too dumb to see it, which is possible, or there's not like an even kind of obvious or like grokkable thread between those things. So that's what makes me be like, this is just us showing this man has lost it. He's, because of being something about the nature of being cooped up in this hotel, and it's haunted and X, Y, and Z. It's not haunted in a way that is logical, because why would it be? It's insanity. Don't try to impose logic or a through line or like for there to be some kind of magic bullet that can solve the situation when that a situation that is just delusion. You know?
Of all the scenes, especially when we get to the, I kind of have an understanding before I say this of what some of the imagery that we're seeing means and what it could allude to and what we're supposed to think about it. But one scene that I can never justify, and you were in shock and I was in shock, is during the chase scene. I believe this is after she's escaped the bathroom. One of the scenes she comes across is the room full of skeletons, full of cobwebs. Yeah. And so we're supposed to get that, obviously, like, okay, there's evil here, there's death here, but there is the scene of a man in a bear costume.
Yeah.
Presumably going down on another man in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And he's like sits up and they stare, and it's just shocking. And that is one scene that I can never explain.
Right.
And not a scene. I mean, just such a quick snippet.
Yeah.
And so
that connects to sort of my like, this is just Dadaist like crazy that's happening.
Yeah. And even the conspiracy theories, like I've never heard a great reason for that snippet.
Like, you simpleton. Obviously, the man going down is a metaphor for, you know, like even on Film Bro Reddit for like one of the broiest Film Bro movies probably that's ever been made. You know, it's this or Fight Club or like, you know, what else is in that pantheon?
Yeah. The conspiracy theories, I don't know. We don't have time to jump into too many. I mean, I do heavily recommend. It is not a great documentary. It's not filmed well, and it's not like the narration is kind of annoying to listen to because like it feels like they just put the quality of like an iPhone microphone in the room.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these guys, it's sometimes hard to hear what they're saying. You don't see any of the conspiracy theorists. You just hear their voices, and it's just playing over clips of either The Shining or it's playing clips over Eyes Wide Shut. Okay. Which is a weird, another Kubrick, but so you see a lot of Tom Cruise in this documentary. But anyway, they're just verbally going over their conspiracy theories. Some of them, when you watch it, if you watch it to try to like really theorize about The Shining, you're not going to get a lot out of it. Yeah. But if you watch it and try to understand more of the context of the filming of The Shining and what possibilities could Kubrick be saying with this, it is an enjoyable watch.
Okay.
There are things when I watch that documentary that they point out things. One of the things that I was waiting to
hit me with the coolest ones.
I'll hit you there in a second. One of the things I was curious if you noticed at all. I pointed out a couple things I wanted you to notice, like simple things, like when I said, "Hey, when Scatman Crothers' character is coming up," which is a crazy amount of effort to immediately get axed when you're in the hotel. But when he's coming up and there's a semi that has crushed a red Volkswagen Bug.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, we see a yellow Volkswagen Bug.
Is what
they're coming into the hotel. Is what Jack and his family are driving. The red Volkswagen Bug is because in the novel The Shining, it was a red. And so some people are theorizing like that is a big middle finger to Stephen King from Kubrick of like, this is the way that I'm going to tell the story, and this is the way I envision it. There are a couple other weird details that I pointed out. One, the typewriter changes, which I picked up from this documentary. Yeah. Some of these things, again, I don't know how important they are, but when you come to understand Kubrick's films, he's pretty specific. Yeah. And he's pretty meticulous when it comes to set design.
There's the chair that is there and then not there and then there again. That has to be intentional.
Correct. It's it's one of those visual scenes that like, how do you not catch that? It has to be intentional.
Yeah.
And so part of it is this Kubrick just messing with us as the viewer of we're trying to like doubt what's happening? And kind of,
if you're trying to make a film that people would obsess over, but you're like, I'm just going to put a bunch of random junk in there and then laugh at the people who try to connect it.
So I'll kind of give you what I think are the kind of three main theories.
Great.
The third is my least favorite theory. And it is a very...
Should we start with that one then?
Yes, we're going to start with my least favorite. And it's one that I just kind of laughed at when it was described in the documentary. And it was all about kind of the like sexual provocativity of the film. And they would break down certain scenes on how like overtly sexual they were. And one of them, for example, and it's such a, I just laughed when when they're doing the scene breakdown, and it's when he comes into the office for the first interview at the beginning of the film, and I forget the character's name, the guy, the manager.
Yeah.
He stands up and he comes to the desk, and there is a frame when he goes to touch Jack's hands where the like letter holder is like a black bar that comes across, and the guy explaining this conspiracy theory is like, this is obviously meant to show an erection of the manager. And it's like all of these like sexual implicit things. Like, I don't think that's what we're supposed to take away from this movie.
Like the people who want to pause Disney movies frame by frame. And
Lion King has the word sex in it. And it's just like, oh, all right, whatever. That's my least favorite. My second...
I thought you were going to be like, well, she's holding a baseball bat, and she's swinging it around, and that's kind of phallic or whatever.
I'm sure there's other things. And obviously, like, that is the one theory that could actually incorporate that snippet of the bear costume hotel room scene. My second theory, and there are much more than these three. My second theory, and I like that they're one just to laugh at it, kind of like, that's kind of insane. My second theory is that this is Kubrick's acceptance and near apology of helping to film the fake moon landing.
And so that's what the Apollo 11 is?
That's part of it. There are some other references here, and there's some like theme references here where it's basically like admitting that you were part of something like evil, or you were part of something. Yeah, there's a big deep dive on this one, but there are some key like details that point to this. And one of those details, which again, it makes me laugh on how, seemingly far-fetched it is, but then you kind of question, why did he change the room number to 237? And apparently, at least in the year 1980, it was understood that the moon is 237,000 miles away from Earth.
Okay.
And so that was like and it was also apparently like possibly maybe like a code name for the stage in which Kubrick helped film the Apollo landing, because that was the theory. It still is the theory today that the moon landing's been faked.
And so the idea has to be that if he helped fake the moon landing, he's obviously under penalty of death or whatever. Yes. Like it's the government that he helped do that.
Right.
So if he's going to try to get that information out in any way, it has to be a stretch.
Right.
Right. It's like when you play code names, you're not allowed to say this one's kind of a stretch because it's code names. They're all a stretch.
Yeah.
Like the point is, well, if it was obvious, then he couldn't have put it in because they would have caught him. And like that kind of thing.
So that's kind of, maybe I got an order. That might be my favorite one because it's just so, man, if that were the case, that's so cool kind of a thing. But the number one, and it's just because it makes the most sense in my opinion, is that this is all about the mass genocide of Native Americans. And that's where we get the line, the white man's burden.
White man's burden.
This is where we get, specifically Kubrick was really particular. And this one I didn't point out on purpose because I didn't want to like feed it into you when you watched it. But when he's locked in the pantry, for example, there are the cans of Calumet, which are like feature a Native American man on it. There are images of Kubrick like very meticulously moving everything in that pantry, and specifically there's one of him like rotating the Calumet cans to make sure that you can fully see it and it's right in line with Jack's head as he's having this dialogue with the previous caretaker right before. Still don't know who unlocks that pantry, how he gets out.
The evil of the hotel, right?
But that's the only moment where the evil of the hotel like physically does something. And we get the very, direct, hey, this hotel was built on an Indian burial ground.
Well, they say it is,
and even the line even is they even had to ward off some attacks while they were finishing construction.
Yeah.
So,
which timeline wise, that's pretty late.
It it kind of
late.
Yeah.
I mean, getting close to 1910.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, there's tons of conspiracy theories behind those films, and that's what I like. I just like entertaining those. Of we'll never know.
It's a good way to like just try to think critically about the concepts of theme and meaning. And I think it's it's good for me to remember that like things can be more than one thing. Some of it is about Indian burial ground stuff. Yeah, for sure. Some of it is weird sex stuff. Why is he's kissing the woman. He's like immediately attracted to her. And that's part of the misogyny thing of like, screw my wife, like here's a hot woman in front of me, and it's objectifying her. I mean, she's totally nude.
There's no hesitation on his part.
None. And it doesn't ask her name, anything like that.
Yep.
So, I think there's, you try to hold space for like Kubrick was playing with with several different themes, and all of these ideas are interested him at the time, right?
And I think that kind of sums up why I love this movie, is because I go back to 16-year-old Andrew and I remember talking about all the things that we just watched.
Yeah.
What does this mean? What does this mean? And having these, I love when a film makes me want to go talk about it longer than the movie actually took to watch. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think as a 16-year-old, you're especially tempted to come up with a grand unifying theory.
Yes.
Like we can plug all of this into this. And part of us maturing as film watchers is being like, yeah, that part probably. And like this other part was just like him being funny or whatever.
And getting pretty defensive about it. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's this. And
yes.
And now I think the last, if I had to be honest, it's been a while since a movie has made me do that as far as having that deep of a conversation. Mm-hmm. I remember in college, Interstellar came out, and that was one where, oh, you haven't seen Interstellar?
I have not seen Interstellar.
And there's so many, like, that was more of even like a science conversation of could this actually happen?
Yeah. How does time travel? How does space travel work and time travel? Yeah.
But I love movies that just have that conversation of, hey, what was your takeaway? And I haven't seen many of those films in recent years. And so I hold on to some of these movies.
And you're not always watching films with people who are in the headspace or have the interest in having those kinds of conversations. Right? Some people
want to tune out and just eat popcorn.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like the movie we just watched today.
Yeah.
It was like,
agreed.
Rachel and I were able to sum it up in probably about 3 minutes of conversation. We didn't really like the ending.
Yeah.
All right.
He was kind of trying to do some stuff, but it was either heavy-handed or not enough. And that's fine, Like the other day when we were at Bryce's house, he's like, oh, I only watch these movies and quote them all the time. And he goes, Anchorman, Tommy Boy, Blaze of Glory. And I was like, oh, sick, dude. Yeah,
those are fun movies. I have guilt. I think you and I probably both have guilty pleasure movies. I love Fast and Furious.
Oh.
Do I think they're good films? No. Heavens no. Are they kind of fun? Heck yeah. But this is not one of those.
That's how I feel about Grease.
Yeah. I don't like Grease.
You don't like Grease?
I do not like Grease. Actively do not like it.
Really?
Don't like the music.
Don't like the music?
I've never been a fan of it.
My God.
It's so sexual.
When did you first see it?
When I was in middle school, probably. Or earlier.
I watched Grease probably 2 times a month from the ages of like 5 to 10. Awesome. So I wasn't getting any of the sexual stuff. Yeah, no, it's just like, he likes her, then he's mean to her, and then
I specifically remember doing a karaoke.
Gets her back?
I remember doing a karaoke version, and I was probably like either 8th grade or freshman year, and this was at school, and we were doing it was in choir.
You're the one that I want?
No, it was
Summer Lovin'.
Summer Lovin'. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, these lyrics are, I don't think I can say this.
She was good. You know what I mean.
I will not hate on people who I don't hate on any movie lovers for any genre, but like I understand the appeal of Grease. Just not for me.
It's just that's what I was raised like. That's just a sentimentality. And I think kids these days don't have it the way we had it, because we were varying between lower middle class to like upper lower class, white family in a small town. Yep. And so it's like we would get movies from the library fairly often and watch like super old timey stuff. But we weren't out every single week renting from Blockbuster. We couldn't. It was a treat when we could do stuff like that. So when you don't have anything else going on and you're a kid and your parents are doing whatever in a way that just doesn't happen anymore, that kids are just meant to entertain themselves for hours at a time. I found that out a lot with my 8th graders who they can't be bored. Yeah. Cannot be bored. You watch the VHSs you have on hand, and if that's Atlantis and Grease and a couple of Veggie Tales that you've like almost worn out the tape in the VHS on, then that's what you're going to watch. Milo and Otis.
Yeah, that's why I watched School of Rock 50 times.
You on VHS?
No, on DVD.
On DVD. Okay, so this is pre-DVD.
Yeah.
It's pre-DVD. When we got DVD player, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that I think that it's amazing, but like, does Olivia Newton-John and like that archetype of a 18-year-old woman, like, did that really like impact my like maturation development of like my ideal woman or whatever? Yeah, it did for sure. Like it did things to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So do I think The Shining is a perfect movie? No. It is just stunning. I still consider it a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It makes the storyline is even questionable. But it's that type of movie that makes you appreciate filmmaking and it makes me want to have a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
And that is my ideal takeaway of a movie.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, especially bonus points for inventing the form, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is before that.
Yes.
And that's a different thing.
That's a slasher.
That I haven't seen either.
And you will.
So in terms of horror, psychological stuff, I mean, there's Hitchcock before this. And other than like Psycho and maybe Vertigo, like it's not the same.
Right.
Rear Window I've seen. I haven't seen Psycho.
Psycho's great. You need to watch it.
Okay.
Again, just quintessential horror. And,
yeah.
And I would be willing to bet it is hard to find a modern day horror filmmaker who does not consider The Shining as a major influence.
Yeah.
It is just, when you talk about horror movies, The Shining has to be in the top 10 of top 5, in my opinion, of best horror movies of all time.
Yeah. Was it nominated for anything?
Ooh, that is a good question. I should have done more research.
Because you get back into the day, like into the 80s, and the early types of genre. I mean, I say genre like I'm some kind of film bro yuppie. Like there's a chance. Now, it's extremely rare. I mean, Get Out was nominated for Best Picture, but
that
it can be hard to break in.
As I looked this up, I remember I've watched a couple different YouTube videos and listened to a couple different podcasts about The Shining. I, again, not a huge horror fan, but I follow the YouTube account Dead Meat, which does the kill counts for horror movies.
Oh, okay.
And what I like about the kill count is it's not just literally we're counting the kills. He does a deep dive into the film and talks about how it was made and what he likes about the horror movie. The Shining he did a few years ago when Dr. Sleep was coming out. And when The Shining first came out, it was not received well.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, think about it. It's so different and it's so counterculture, and it's it actually won. I believe it. I think it won early. It was like at least nominated the first Golden Raspberry Award for worst director and worst actress for Shelley Duvall.
Wow,
which I would agree with on my first watching.
Yeah,
but then after our conversation again, I think she was that type of character specifically.
Makes me want to see her play a 3-dimensional real person in something else.
Yeah, which she didn't do much of.
Yeah, it was
I can't
interesting
think of any other Shelley Duvall
filmography. And she's not related to Robert Duvall.
Huh.
Just same last name.
I should have made that connection, but I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I just assumed the whole time.
But yeah, I think The Shining has aged well with time. It's too big to call it a cult classic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it definitely has a major following, and I would say most people have seen it. ?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we get more into the 2020s, it's like it's been long enough that
we're on the tail end of the 2020s.
We're like almost exactly halfway through the 2020s.
All right,
well, the tail end. I think it's like, there's like film appreciation culture for the half generation under us, like people in their like early to mid 20s. Some of them, I don't know that they've just happened upon it. I don't know that it's a like buddies in the basement, like when I was in high school thing.
Yeah.
Unless it was specifically like a parent suggested deal. People that are into film have probably purposely gone back, to see that. And the same people who are going back to watch Citizen Kane and North by Northwest and, fill in your classic film.
Right. Godfather.
I mean, Godfather still has more of a cultural, like it's the Godfather, like
huge
so
pop
long
culture,
and but other than Godfather, I mean, I think The Shining, in terms of movies that I've heard about, it's probably up there in terms of stuff people care about.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I appreciated it maybe more than I like. I really appreciated it. I mean, we keep talking about the filmmaking and the cinematography and the choices and the specificity of the detail and the acting, especially that Jack Nicholson gives. I really appreciated it and thought that it was excellent. I didn't try that hard to like figure it out during it, which is always a really good sign with a thriller type thing like that. I wasn't aggressively theorizing like I could be. I thought it was really good. I think it would be good to watch again to try to be picking stuff up sooner, and making connections and noticing some stuff. I did like it.
Nice.
I don't know that it converts me to that's my favorite genre of movie type of thing, but no. Yeah.
And again, horror's not my favorite. I was thinking on the way over here, actually, I was like, have I ever recommended someone to watch The Shining before Rogge? And I don't think I have.
Oh.
And I don't think I necessarily would.
For most,
For most
take a
people.
specific.
I think once I got to know you a little bit better and I understood your love and passion for movies, that I'm like, okay, Rogge he might not like The Shining, in my opinion, when I was thinking about getting ready to watch it with you. He might not like it, but I think he'll be able to appreciate it or at least give me a really good reason to not like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I tried to be thoughtful for sure. But it's, I copied your like rating definitions on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's got to be masterpiece. Like just from those first opening shots, like the way that it's just the mastery of a camera and setting a mood with the set design and stuff like that. I mean, it's just it's not paralleled often in films that you see anymore.
And again, I think the thing I like, and I should have said this earlier maybe, but the thing I like the most about kind of psychological horror, because there are some other psychological horror movies that I like a lot that we can dive in later. But what I like about this is, and I kind of gave you the heads up on this, I don't think there's a true jump scare in this movie. There is.
You said that, yeah.
There, if you consider when he's in the room, the attractive woman to the old woman, little, kind of a jump scare there.
Yeah.
But it's really just kind of that foreboding. It's that unsettling.
If you hadn't told me that, I would have assumed there were 5. Like the way that it, the way that the camera positions itself in front of Shelley Duvall.
You're ready for something to jump out.
It's because of the movies I've seen since then that have cribbed from it. They're like, oh, well, perfect. There can be a dude hiding behind that pillar right there. Like there's a reason you set it up. And
maybe that's something that I would beg to claim that I think modern horror does not do a great job of, is relies a little too heavy on the jump scares for the most part. When a really good horror movie comes along, you and I saw Weapons recently, and I think there were obviously some jump scares in there, but they were all earned. Relevant jump scares.
They were earned.
Yes.
Well, Andrew, I so appreciate you coming on. Really, really fun, thoughtful conversation about a movie like The Shining. Folks, we would love for you to get at us at FlabberPod on your social media of choice, which should be no social media. We can all agree. But if you could hit us up on Instagram, we have on Instagram, you can click a link to it's not a link tree, but it's something like that. Jeremy's going to be so mad at me as he's listening to this. Let me flag in case we have like an outro that he wants to put in. Andrew, would you come back on? Did you like being on Flabbergasted?
I did. Yeah? This is first time. I had a joke ready, but then you had a really good intro. I was going to say, short time listener, first time Potter.
I'll take my answer off the air.
I love this. I think I just rambled the whole time is my only takeaway, but I would love to come back because I love movies and I love discussing them.
Well, we'll have to come back with one of my favorite movies that you haven't seen. 100%. So we'll have to do kind of a home and home. Folks, Andrew, a proud member of Second Breakfast 2.0, parentheses working title, proud member of the Mouse Brigade, one of my, as I said, newly minted good friends. We so appreciate you coming on, and hope you can share this to Brittany's large family so we can get a bunch of new followers.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, guys.